finally let her die and you will marry my son.
Mona heard the voices through the fog of pain and medication. Finally, Gregory's mother said, her tone almost cheerful, "Now he can be with someone suitable." The mistress laughed, actually laughed, as the monitor flatlined. Through the chaos of doctors trying to save her, Mona understood. They were celebrating her death. Then, as consciousness slipped away, she heard the doctor's urgent voice. "Wait, the second baby, it's twins. And her heart rate is coming back." The celebration died instantly, and Mona, fighting her way back to life, marked every face that had smiled at her demise. "Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. I am Mr. Zaha. Thanks for tuning in today." A kind words from a man who has seen it all. Marriage are not mostly bed of roses. Sometime you need more of. More of what? Can't say. Continue watching, and you will surely know what to do in situations like this. Kindly hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow, I'll be bringing you another exciting story you definitely don't want to miss. So let's get started. Mona stood in the nursery of their Boston estate, one hand on her swollen belly, staring at the single crib Gregory had ordered. Cream-colored, expensive, monogrammed with initials that spelled out the legacy he cared about more than the child who would sleep in it, or the wife carrying that child. "You should be resting." Gregory's voice came from the doorway, not concerned, just stating a fact, like he was reviewing a business report. Mona didn't turn around. "The nursery isn't finished. The baby comes in 2 weeks, and we don't have. I've hired people to handle it. You don't need to stress yourself." He checked his phone, already half gone even while standing in the same room. "I have to fly to New York tonight. Investor meeting. Tonight? Gregory, I'm due any day." The doctor said. "The doctor said 2 weeks. I'll be back in 3 days. For at most." He finally looked up from his phone, his handsome face showing irritation rather than understanding. "Mona, I can't put my life on hold because you're pregnant. The company doesn't stop for anyone. I'm not anyone. I'm your wife." "Exactly. My wife, who has a full medical team on call, a house staff of 12, and every resource imaginable. You'll be fine." The dismissal in his voice cut deeper than anger would have. At least anger would have meant he felt something. "Will Victoria be going with you?" Mona asked quietly. "To New York?" Gregory's jaw tightened. "Victoria is my executive assistant. She goes where the work requires. She's been going wherever you go for 6 months. Don't insult me by pretending I haven't noticed. I don't have time for your paranoia. I found the hotel receipts, Gregory. Adjoining rooms. Room service for 2. I'm pregnant, not stupid." For a moment, something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe, or just annoyance at being caught. "Victoria understands the demands of my position. She doesn't complain about late nights or travel. She doesn't make everything about herself." He grabbed his briefcase from the hallway. "Maybe if you focused less on conspiracy theories and more on preparing for motherhood, we wouldn't have these problems." He left without kissing her goodbye, without touching her belly, without any acknowledgement that in 2 weeks, they'd be parents. Mona sank into the rocking chair, tears streaming down her face, feeling her baby kick as if sensing her distress. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. She'd met Gregory Blackstone 3 years ago at a hospital fundraiser. She'd been a pediatric nurse, dedicated, compassionate, living in a modest apartment and pouring her heart into caring for sick children. Gregory had been magnetic. Billionaire CEO of Blackstone Pharmaceuticals, but charming in a way that made you forget about the money. He'd pursued her relentlessly, flowers, handwritten notes, showing up at the hospital with coffee when she worked double shifts. "You see people," he'd said on their 3rd date. "Really see them. Not what they can give you or how they can help you. You just see their humanity. I've never met anyone like you." She'd fallen hard. They'd married within a year, a lavish wedding that his family barely attended, making their disapproval clear. Gregory's mother, Catherine Blackstone, had told Mona at the reception, "You're a phase. Girls like you always are. Gregory will tire of playing common and remember who he really is." Mona had ignored the warning. Gregory loved her. He'd chosen her over family expectations. That had to mean something. But marriage had changed him. Or maybe it had just revealed who he'd always been. The doting boyfriend became a distant husband. The man who'd shown up with coffee became someone who barely came home. The romantic gestures stopped. The conversations dried up. And when Mona got pregnant, unplanned but joyful. Gregory had looked at her belly like it was a problem to be managed rather than a miracle to celebrate. "A baby complicates things," he'd said. "The timing is terrible. I'm in the middle of a major acquisition. Babies don't wait for convenient timing." "No, but they do require resources. Staff. Planning. I'll handle it." And he had. Hiring nannies before the baby was even born, converting a guest wing into a nursery suite, making arrangements that kept the baby as separate from their lives as possible. He'd turned their child into another business deal. And somewhere in that process, Victoria Chun had appeared. 28. Brilliant. Ambitious. Everything Gregory's family thought he should have married instead of the common nurse. Mona had tried to ignore the signs. The late nights. The whispered phone calls. The way Gregory looked at Victoria. Really looked at her. The way he used to look at Mona. But you can't ignore hotel receipts. Or the way your husband stops touching you. Or the fact that he'd rather be anywhere but home with his pregnant wife. The pain started that night. Sharp. Unmistakable. Mona called Gregory. Voicemail. She called again. Voicemail. She called the hospital line Gregory had set up. Within 20 minutes, Dr. Sarah Chin arrived. No relation to Victoria, thankfully, with a full medical team. "How far apart are the contractions?" Dr. Chin asked, professional and calm. 5 minutes. "But it's too early. I'm not due for 2 weeks. Babies come when they're ready. Let's get you to the hospital. I need to reach Gregory. We'll keep trying. Right now, focus on you and the baby." The drive to Boston General's private wing was a blur of pain and fear. Mona kept calling Gregory, kept getting voicemail, kept imagining him in a New York hotel room with Victoria, phone silenced, completely unaware that his wife was in labor. At the hospital, they got her into a delivery room. Monitors. IVs. Dr. Chun checking her progress with increasing concern. "The baby's in distress," she said quietly. "Heart rate is dropping. We may need to do an emergency C-section. Where is my husband?" Mona's voice cracked. "Please, someone find Gregory." A nurse tried his number. His office. His assistant. Nothing. Catherine Blackstone arrived instead. Gregory's mother swept into the room like she owned it, which, given the Blackstone wing they were in, she essentially did. She was 65, perfectly preserved, wearing a suit that cost more than Mona's yearly nursing salary used to be. "Where's Gregory?" Mona gasped between contractions. "New York. Something about investors." Catherine's tone suggested this was Mona's fault somehow. "Really? This is quite inconvenient timing." "Inconvenient?" Mona stared at her. "I'm having your grandchild." "Yes. Well, these things happen." Catherine settled into a chair by the window, pulling out her phone. "I suppose someone should be here. For appearances." "For appearances. Not for Mona. Not for the baby. For how it would look if no family was present." Another contraction hit. Worse than the others. The monitor started beeping frantically. "We need to move now," Dr. Chin said. "The baby's in serious distress. We're going to surgery." Everything happened fast. The rush to the OR. The anesthesia. The bright lights. Mona's vision blurring as they worked to save her baby. Through the fog, she heard voices in the waiting area just outside. Catherine on the phone. "She's in surgery now. High-risk situation. The doctors are concerned." "Yes, I'll keep you updated." "And Victoria, tell Gregory to take his time. These things can take hours." "Victoria." Catherine had called Victoria to update her, not Gregory. Then she heard another voice. Young. Female. Confident. "I flew in to support Gregory. He's so worried." Victoria's voice, dripping with false concern. "It must be so difficult, watching someone you've outgrown go through this." "Gregory made a mistake marrying her," Catherine replied. "But mistakes can be corrected. Once this is over, once there's a child to consider, he'll see clearly. She's not suitable for this family." Mona tried to call out, to tell them she could hear them, but the anesthesia was pulling her under. The last thing she heard before darkness took her was Victoria laughing, a sound like breaking glass. Poor thing. She tried so hard to fit into his world. But you can't make a silk purse from a sow's ear, can you? More laughter. Agreement. The casual cruelty of people who'd never been vulnerable a day in their lives. Then pain. Blinding pain. Alarms blaring. Doctors shouting. "She's hemorrhaging. BP dropping. We're losing her." The monitor's steady beep becoming one long, flat tone. And through it all, even as she felt herself slipping away, Mona heard Catherine's voice, Finally. Now Gregory can move on with someone suitable. Heard Victoria. It's for the best, really. Heard them celebrating. Actually celebrating. Her death. While she was dying. While giving birth to Gregory's child. The betrayal was so profound, so absolute, that even as darkness swallowed her, Mona felt something crystallize inside her. Not grief. Not pain. Rage. Pure. Cold. Clarifying rage. If she survived this, when she survived this, she would remember every word, every laugh, every smile, and they would all pay. Wait. Dr. Chin's voice cut through the chaos. There's another baby. She's pregnant with twins. We didn't see it on the ultrasound. One was hidden behind the other. More chaos. More pain. Mona's consciousness flickering like a dying light. The second baby is in distress. We need to move fast. Her heart rate is coming back. She's fighting. Get that baby out now. A cry. High and clear. The first baby. It's a girl, someone said. Then more pain. More pushing. Another cry, different pitch. Another girl. Twins, it's twin girls. And Mona, consciousness returning in agonizing waves, heard the voices from the waiting area again. But different now. Not celebrating. Panicking. She's alive. Catherine's voice, sharp with shock. Twins. Victoria's disbelief evident. That complicates things. We need to leave, Catherine hissed. Before she realizes we were here. But Mona already knew. She'd heard everything. Every word. Every laugh. Every celebration of her death. And as they placed two tiny, perfect babies on her chest, as life came flooding back into her broken body, Mona made a promise. To herself. To her daughters. She would survive this. She would remember everything. And everyone who'd celebrated her death would learn exactly what it cost to underestimate a mother's love. Starting with her husband, who still hadn't bothered to answer his phone. Mona drifted in and out of consciousness for the next 6 hours. But every time she woke, she made sure to do two things. Hold her daughters, and remember the voices she'd heard celebrating her death. The nurses had cleaned and swaddled the twins. Both tiny but healthy, dark hair like Gregory's, delicate features that somehow already looked determined. They'd placed them in incubators next to her bed. Standard procedure for premature twins, Dr. Chin explained. You gave us quite a scare, Dr. Chin said, checking Mona's vitals for the dozenth time. You lost a lot of blood. We nearly lost you twice. But you fought like hell. My daughters, Mona whispered, her voice raw from intubation. Are they really okay? They're perfect. 5 pounds 2 ounces and 4 pounds 15 ounces. Small but mighty, like their mother. Dr. Chin smiled. I have to say, in 20 years of obstetrics, I've never seen a twin pregnancy completely hidden on ultrasound. One baby was positioned directly behind the other every single time. It's extraordinarily rare. Where's Gregory? Dr. Chin's smile faded. Still in New York, as far as I know. We've been trying to reach him for hours. His phone goes straight to voicemail. And his mother? Where is she? She left about an hour ago. Said she'd return in the morning. Dr. Chin hesitated. Mona, I was outside during your surgery. I heard things. Things that concerned me. Mona looked at her directly. What did you hear? Enough to know that you need to be very careful. And that you might want your own lawyer, not just your husband's family lawyer. She squeezed Mona's hand. I'm not supposed to get involved in my patients' personal lives. But as a woman who's seen too many women isolated and vulnerable, document everything. Trust your instincts. Protect yourself and those babies. Before Mona could respond, the door burst open. Gregory stood there, disheveled in a way she'd never seen him. His suit was wrinkled, his hair messed up, his face pale with what might have been fear or might have been guilt. Mona. He crossed to her bedside. Oh God, Mona. I just landed. I got on the first flight when I finally saw my mother's messages. I'm so sorry. He stopped, seeing the incubators. The babies, Mona said coldly. Twin girls. You have twin daughters, Gregory. Daughters who came into this world while you were in New York with your assistant and your phone turned off. I didn't turn it off. The investor dinner ran late. And he looked genuinely shaken. Twins? How is that possible? The ultrasounds always showed one. One was hidden. Apparently God has a sense of humor about these things. Mona's voice was ice. Where's Victoria? Gregory's face went carefully blank. She's my assistant. She was at the investor meeting. She was here. At the hospital. I heard her voice while I was in surgery. While I was dying, Gregory, your mistress was here. She's not my. Don't. The word came out with enough force that one of the babies stirred. Mona lowered her voice. Don't you dare lie to me while I'm lying in a hospital bed, recovering from nearly dying. I heard her, Gregory. I heard her and your mother. I heard them celebrating. Celebrating what? My death. Mona watched his face carefully. When my heart stopped. When the monitor flatlined. Your mother said, finally, now Gregory can move on with someone suitable. Victoria laughed. Actually laughed. And they discussed how convenient it would be for you to be free. The color drained from Gregory's face completely. That's not. They wouldn't. I was conscious, Gregory. Barely, but conscious. I heard every word. Tears streamed down Mona's face now, not from sadness, but from rage. I was dying, giving birth to your children. And your mother and your mistress celebrated like I was a problem finally solved. Gregory sank into the chair beside her bed, his head in his hands. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know they were here. I didn't know you were in labor. I didn't. His voice broke. This can't be happening. But it is. And now you need to choose. Mona's voice was steel. Your mother, your mistress, and whatever life you've been building behind my back. Or your wife and your daughters. You don't get both. That's not fair. Fair. Mona's laugh was hollow. You want to talk about fair? I almost died tonight, Gregory. I coded twice. My heart stopped twice. And the people who should have been praying for my survival were planning your next wedding. The door opened again. Catherine Blackstone entered, stopping short when she saw Gregory. Oh, you're here. We weren't expecting you until morning. Her eyes darted to Mona, and for just a moment, Mona saw panic flash across her face. Hello, Catherine, Mona said softly. Surprised to see me alive? Catherine's composure returned. Don't be dramatic. Of course I'm relieved you survived. You're the mother of Gregory's children. Children. Plural. Twins. Did you know about the second baby when you were celebrating my death? Or was that just a happy bonus? I have no idea what you're talking about. I heard you. Mona's voice cut like a knife. I heard everything. Finally, now Gregory can move on with someone suitable. Your exact words. While my heart had stopped. While doctors were trying to save me. Gregory stood. Mother, tell me she's wrong. Tell me you weren't here celebrating while my wife was dying. Catherine's mask slipped for just a second. I was in shock. People say things when they're in shock. You called Victoria to update her before you called me. Gregory said, his voice hollow. Mom, you called my assistant, who you know I've been. He couldn't finish the sentence. Having an affair with? Mona supplied. The words are having an affair with. Say it, Gregory. At least have the courage to name what you've been doing. I've been unfaithful, Gregory said quietly. With Victoria. For 6 months. I'm not proud of it. But I never wanted you hurt. And I certainly never wanted you dead. How noble. Mona turned her attention back to Catherine. You need to leave. Now. And you need to understand something. I'm done pretending for this family. Done making myself small, so you can pretend your son didn't marry beneath him. Done being the acceptable sacrifice for Blackstone legacy planning. You're being hysterical. I'm being clear. You celebrated my death. In front of witnesses. Dr. Chen heard you. The nurses heard you. I heard you. And if you ever come near me or my daughters again without groveling for forgiveness, I will make sure every person in Boston society knows exactly what kind of person you are. Catherine's face went red. How dare you threaten me? It's not a threat. It's a boundary. And you're going to respect it? Or I'm going to destroy the Blackstone reputation so thoroughly that your grandchildren will be ashamed to carry the name. Gregory, are you going to let her speak to me this way? Gregory looked at his mother, really looked at her, and something in his expression changed. Did you celebrate? When you thought she was dead, did you actually say those things? Catherine hesitated just long enough for the truth to be obvious. Get out, Gregory said quietly. Gregory, get out. His voice rose. Get out of this room. Get out of this hospital. And don't come back until you're ready to apologize to my wife for celebrating her death while she gave birth to your grandchildren. Catherine's composure shattered. You're choosing her over your family? She is my family. Those babies are my family. You, he gestured at her. You're someone I'm related to who just showed me exactly how little family actually means to you. Catherine left, her heels clicking sharply against the tile, fury radiating from every step. The room fell silent except for the soft beeping of monitors and the occasional whimper from the incubators. I need you to leave too, Mona said finally. Mona, I need time. I need space. I need to process the fact that I almost died while your mother and your mistress celebrated, and you were in a different city with your phone off. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, Gregory. Sorry doesn't erase what happened. Sorry doesn't make me trust you again. She looked at him with exhausted eyes. I heard them celebrating my death. Do you understand what that does to a person? To know that your husband's family, your husband's lover, wanted you gone. I didn't want you gone. I never wanted you gone. No, you just wanted me invisible. Convenient. Not pregnant at an inconvenient time. Not complicating your affair. Not being so common and embarrassing to your family. Mona's voice cracked. You wanted me erased without the mess of actually ending things. That's not true. Then what is true, Gregory? Because from where I'm lying, in a hospital bed, having nearly died, with 2 premature babies I'll be raising alone because you couldn't be bothered to answer your phone, the truth looks pretty damning. Gregory sank back into the chair. I've been a coward. A selfish, entitled coward. I got scared when you got pregnant. Scared of responsibility, of being tied down, of becoming my father who worked himself to death for family obligation. So I ran. To Victoria, to work, to anything that let me pretend I wasn't about to be a father. And my death would have been the ultimate escape, wouldn't it? Tragic. Not your fault. Free to move on with someone suitable, with sympathy instead of judgment. No. God, no. Mona, when I got the message that you'd coded, that we'd nearly lost you, tears streamed down his face. I've never been more terrified in my life. The thought of you gone, of our babies, growing up without knowing you, of spending the rest of my life knowing I'd thrown away the best thing that ever happened to me. Stop. Mona held up her hand. I can't hear this right now. I can't process your regret while I'm recovering from almost dying. You need to leave. When can I come back? I don't know. When I've decided whether I even want you to come back. They're my daughters too. Then act like it. Be a father. But don't expect to be my husband right now. That man died tonight. If there's going to be a husband again, he'll have to be someone completely different. Gregory stood slowly, looking at the incubators where his daughters slept. Can I at least hold them? Before I go. Mona wanted to say no. Wanted to deny him even this. But she looked at her daughters and knew they deserved a father, even if she wasn't sure she could forgive theirs. 5 minutes. Then you leave. The nurses helped Gregory hold his daughters, one at a time. Mona watched his face transform, saw wonder and terror and love and shame war across his features. Saw him understand, perhaps for the first time, exactly what he'd risked losing. What are their names? He asked softly. I haven't decided yet. I was waiting for you to be here. Apparently, that was naive. He handed the second baby back to the nurse with obvious reluctance. I'm going to fix this. I don't know how, but I'm going to fix this. Some things can't be fixed, Gregory. They can only be rebuilt from scratch. And that takes time and trust and consistent action. Not grand gestures. Not apologies. Real change. Then I'll change. Whatever it takes. We'll see. Mona turned her face away. Now leave. Please. I can't look at you anymore tonight. Gregory left, and only then did Mona allow herself to completely break down. To sob for the marriage that had died. For the family she'd wanted. For the man she'd loved who'd chosen everything else over her. Dr. Chun returned, pressing a tissue into her hand. I've arranged for a private recovery suite. No visitors unless you approve them. You need time to heal, physically and otherwise. Thank you. And Mona, whatever you decide, whether to forgive him or leave him, make sure it's your choice. Not his. Not his mother's. Not society's expectation. Yours. Mona looked at her daughters, sleeping peacefully despite the chaos of their entrance into the world. They deserved a mother who was strong, who made choices from power, not fear. And she would be that mother, even if it meant burning down her entire life to rebuild it. Starting now. 3 weeks later, Mona sat in the nursery of a brownstone she'd purchased in her own name, modest compared to the Blackstone estate, but hers. The twins, whom she'd finally named Elena and Sophie after her grandmother and mother, slept in matching cribs while Mona reviewed documents her lawyer had compiled. Evidence. Of everything. The hotel receipts. The adjoining room charges. The gifts Gregory had purchased for Victoria using joint accounts. The timeline of his affair matched against her pregnancy. And most damning, security footage from the hospital showing Catherine and Victoria's arrival, their casual conversation in the waiting area, their expressions when they thought Mona had died. Triumph. Unmistakable triumph. Her lawyer, Miranda Torres, had been blunt. You have grounds for divorce that would leave him with minimal custody and you with substantial assets. The prenup becomes void under infidelity clauses. The hospital footage is devastating. His mother's behavior could be construed as emotional abuse. You'd win everything. I don't want everything, Mona had said. I want my daughters protected, and I want to understand if there's anything left worth saving. Now, 3 weeks later, she still didn't have an answer. Gregory had been present, painfully, consistently present. He'd moved out of the family estate and into a small apartment near her brownstone. He came every morning at 7 to help with the twins, feeding, changing, the exhausting routine of caring for premature newborns. He stayed until she sent him away, usually around noon. He didn't push, didn't demand, didn't try to force reconciliation. He just showed up, every day, doing the unglamorous work of fatherhood without complaint. How's he doing? Miranda asked during one of her visits. Gregory, I mean, is he keeping up the act? I don't think it's an act. Mona watched Elena sleep, her tiny chest rising and falling. He's different. Humbled, maybe. Or broken. I'm not sure which. Broken men can be dangerous. So can women who've been pushed too far. Mona smiled grimly. I'm not the same person who married him. That woman died on the operating table. This version of me doesn't forgive easily. Her phone buzzed. A text from Gregory. Victoria came to my apartment today, demanding to talk. I sent her away without opening the door. Thought you should know. Speak of the devil, Mona muttered, showing Miranda the message. The mistress is getting desperate. Classic. The affair was exciting when it was secret. Now that it's exposed and costly, suddenly it's not so appealing. Another text. She's threatening to go to the press with her side of the story. Says we were in love. That you trapped me with the pregnancy. That I was planning to leave you anyway. Mona's blood ran cold. Can she do that? She can try. But we have documentation that contradicts her timeline. And honestly, a mistress going to the press tends to backfire spectacularly. She'll look like exactly what she is, a homewrecker trying to justify her actions. Mona typed back to Gregory. Let her. I'm not afraid of the truth anymore. His response was immediate. I'm meeting with my PR team and lawyers today. Whatever she says, I'll make sure the real story comes out. That I betrayed you. That this is my fault. That she was never anything but a mistake that nearly cost me everything. He's really trying, Miranda observed, reading over Mona's shoulder. Or he's really scared of losing his money and reputation. Maybe both. People are complicated. The question is whether his motivation matters if the actions are right. That afternoon, Gregory arrived for his usual visit, but something was different. His eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted. He held a folder. What's that? Mona asked, bouncing Sophie gently as the baby fussed. Something I should have given you weeks ago. Years ago, really. He set the folder on the table. Full financial disclosure. Every account, every asset, every investment. I've removed my mother from all joint holdings. I've restructured my will to ensure you and the girls are primary beneficiaries regardless of our marital status. And I've filed a restraining order against Victoria. She's been showing up at my apartment, my office, making threats. Mona stared at him. Why are you doing this? Because I'm tired of having power over you. Tired of using money and status as leverage. You should know exactly what resources exist for our daughters. You should have control over your own financial future. And you should never have to fear that I'll use wealth to manipulate you into staying. He pulled out another document. This is a post-nuptial agreement. It gives you equal control over all marital assets. If we divorce, you get half plus child support. If we stay married, we make all major financial decisions jointly. No more me controlling the money while you depend on my generosity. Mona took the document with shaking hands. Gregory, this is millions of dollars. It's what's fair. What should have been our arrangement from the beginning. He sat down heavily. I've spent 3 weeks in therapy, individual and group, learning about narcissistic behavior patterns, about how I used financial control to maintain power, about how my fear of vulnerability made me cruel. And I'm a mess. I'm angry at my mother for the first time in my life. I'm ashamed of who I've been. I'm terrified you'll never forgive me, and I'll have to watch my daughters grow up from a distance. His voice cracked. But I'm also learning that my discomfort doesn't get to be your problem. That real love means supporting you even when it's hard for me. That being a good father means showing up consistently, not just when it's convenient. Sophie quieted in Mona's arms, her tiny hand wrapping around Mona's finger. I heard from your mother, Mona said quietly. Gregory's head snapped up. What? She sent a letter. Through her lawyer. Very formal. Very Catherine Blackstone. Mona pulled it from her pocket. Would you like to hear it? Should I? Mona unfolded the letter and read. Mrs. Blackstone, she paused. She called me Mrs. Blackstone. Not Mona. Not even her daughter-in-law. Mrs. Blackstone, like I'm a business associate. That sounds like her. Mrs. Blackstone, I understand my words at the hospital have caused distress. Please understand they were spoken in shock and fear, not with malicious intent. However, I recognize their impact was harmful regardless of intention. I apologize for any pain I caused. I hope you will permit me to meet my granddaughters when you feel ready. Sincerely, Catherine Blackstone. Gregory was silent for a long moment. That's the most emotion I've ever seen her express in writing. It's also not a real apology. I'm sorry for your feelings isn't the same as I'm sorry I celebrated your death. No, it's not. Gregory rubbed his face. Do you want me to talk to her? I want you to decide something first. Mona held Sophie closer. Your mother or your daughters. You don't get both until she actually takes responsibility. No more mediating. No more asking me to understand her perspective. Either she respects me as your wife and their mother, or she doesn't get access to this family. That's fair, is it? Or are you just agreeing because you're afraid I'll leave? Gregory met her eyes directly. Both. I'm agreeing because it's fair and because I'm afraid you'll leave. And I'm learning that I can hold both truths at once. That fear doesn't make the right choice wrong. Mona felt something shift in her chest. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But recognition that maybe the man sitting across from her was finally being honest. I need to tell you something, she said. About that night. About what I heard. Okay. When my heart stopped, when I was dying, I heard them celebrating. And in that moment, I felt something break inside me. Not just my heart or my trust. My ability to love you. It just shattered. Like glass. Gregory's face crumpled with pain, but he stayed silent, letting her speak. And I thought, good. Let it break. Let love die because love made me weak and small and willing to accept crumbs. Love made me stay with a man who didn't value me. Love made me vulnerable to people who wanted me dead. Mona. But then I woke up, and they handed me Elena and Sophie, and I felt love again. Different love. Fierce love. Mama bear love that would burn down the world to protect them. She looked at him, and I realized, love didn't make me weak. The wrong kind of love did. Love that demanded I sacrifice myself. Love that asked me to be small so others could feel big. I made you small, Gregory said, tears streaming down his face. I see that now. God, I see it so clearly. You were this bright, compassionate, powerful person, and I systematically dimmed you because your light made me feel inadequate. Yes, you did. Mona didn't soften the truth. And I let you. I made myself smaller and smaller, thinking that's what love required. That's what marriage meant. That supporting you meant erasing myself. How do we come back from that? I don't know if we do. But if there's any chance, it starts with you understanding something. I don't need you anymore. I don't need your money. I have my own career, my own resources now. I don't need your name. I kept it for the girl's sake, not mine. I don't need your protection or provision or anything else you think you're offering. If I choose to stay married to you, it's not because I need you. It's because I choose you. And that choice has to be earned every single day. I understand. Do you? Because earning that choice means therapy. Real therapy, not just showing up to sessions. It means making amends not just to me, but to everyone you've treated as disposable. It means confronting your mother and setting real boundaries. It means proving, through consistent action over years, that you've actually changed. I'm willing to do all of that. And if you slip, if you default back to old patterns, if I see even a hint of that arrogant, controlling man you used to be, then you leave. With the girls. With half of everything. With my support and no fight. Gregory's voice was steady. I'm putting it in writing. The post-nuptial agreement includes behavioral clauses. If you have documented evidence of infidelity, financial manipulation, or emotional abuse, the prenup is void and you get everything. My lawyers think I'm insane for agreeing to it. But I'm doing it anyway. Mona stared at the man who'd betrayed her, seeing something she hadn't seen before. Not the charming boyfriend or the cold husband. Something new. Humility. Genuine remorse. The willingness to be vulnerable instead of powerful. I need to nurse Sophie, she said finally. You can stay if you want. Hold Elena. Just be here. Not performing. Not trying to win me back. Just being. Gregory carefully lifted Elena from her crib, settling into the rocking chair with his daughter against his chest. His face transformed as he looked down at her, wonder and terror and fierce protectiveness. She looks like you, he said softly. Both of them do. They have your determination. I can already tell. Good. They'll need it. Mona settled into her own chair, nursing Sophie. The world isn't kind to women who refuse to be small. Then I'll teach them to be big. To take up space. To never dim themselves for anyone. He looked at Mona. The way I should have encouraged you to be. They sat in silence, each holding a daughter, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't a reconciliation. It was just two broken people trying to be good parents. But it was more honest than anything they'd shared in years. And honesty, Mona was learning, was the only foundation worth building on. Even if the building took years. Even if it never looked like what they'd lost. 2 days later, the tabloids exploded. Blackstone Mistress tells all. He was going to leave her anyway. Victoria Chen claims hospital drama was convenient timing. Billionaire's wife trapped him with pregnancy, lover alleges. Mona sat in her living room, staring at her phone, watching her life become entertainment for millions of strangers. Miranda called immediately. Don't read the comments. Don't engage. Let me handle this. She's saying I trapped him. That the pregnancy was deliberate manipulation. She's desperate and stupid. We have medical records showing you were on birth control when you conceived. We have texts from Gregory calling the pregnancy inconvenient. We have a timeline that destroys her narrative. She's hanging herself. Then why do I feel like I'm the one being destroyed? Because lies move faster than truth. But truth wins eventually. Trust me. Gregory called next. I'm issuing a statement. I've already drafted it. I'm taking full responsibility. Calling out Victoria's lies. Making it clear that I betrayed you. That the pregnancy was unexpected but wanted. That she was never anything but a mistake. Don't defend me, Mona said. Don't make this about protecting me. Make it about telling the truth. That's what I'm trying to do. Then tell all of it. The affair. The hospital. Your mother. Everything. Rip off the Band-Aid and let people see exactly what happened. Mona, that will destroy my reputation. Your reputation deserves to be destroyed. Her voice rose. You cheated on your pregnant wife. Your mother celebrated my death. Your mistress is now lying to the press. If the truth destroys your reputation, then your reputation was built on lies anyway. Silence. Then, you're right. I'll tell everything. And he did. That evening, Gregory Blackstone held a press conference. No PR spin. No lawyer-approved statements. Just him, standing at a podium, telling the truth. I cheated on my wife while she was pregnant. I betrayed her trust, her love, and her sacrifice. I prioritized my ego and my fear over my marriage. And when she nearly died giving birth to our daughters, my mother and my former assistant were at the hospital, celebrating. Actually celebrating what they thought was her death. The press corps exploded with questions. Gregory held up his hand. I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. I'm here to accept responsibility. Victoria Chun is lying when she says Mona trapped me. The pregnancy was unplanned but wanted. Victoria is lying when she says we were in love. We had an affair based on ego and convenience, nothing more. And my mother, his voice hardened. She's no longer welcome in my life until she makes genuine amends for her behavior. What about your wife? A reporter shouted. Are you still together? That's her decision. And whatever she decides, I'll support it. If she leaves me, I'll deserve it. If she gives me a chance to rebuild her trust, I'll spend the rest of my life earning it. Mona watched the press conference from her brownstone, tears streaming down her face. Not because she'd forgiven him, but because for the first time in their marriage, Gregory had chosen truth over image. And truth was the only foundation worth building on. End of Act 3. Shall I continue with ACT 4? Climax, 1,500 words. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. You are out of free messages until 4 p.m. Upgrade Sonnet 4.5. 2 months after the press conference, Mona stood in the doorway of Gregory's apartment, holding a folder thick with documents. Elena and Sophie were with a trusted nanny. This conversation needed to happen without tiny witnesses. Gregory opened the door, surprise flickering across his face. Mona, I wasn't expecting, is everything okay? The girls, they're fine. We need to talk. She stepped inside without waiting for invitation. The apartment was sparse, functional, nothing like the Blackstone estate with its marble and excess. A playpen sat in the corner. Baby supplies covered the coffee table. Photos of Elena and Sophie were everywhere, taped to the refrigerator, framed on the bookshelf, scattered across his desk. I've been doing research, Mona said, setting the folder down. On narcissistic family systems, on financial abuse, on trauma bonding and love bombing, and all the terminology I never had words for before. Gregory sat down slowly. What did you learn? That your mother is a textbook narcissist. That you were raised to see love as transactional. That you learned to use money and status as control because that's what you saw modeled. She opened the folder. I also learned about generational trauma. About how people repeat patterns unless they actively choose to break them. I'm in therapy. I know. Your therapist sent me a release with your permission. We've been coordinating. Mona pulled out pages covered in her handwriting. I've been in therapy too, processing everything. And I've reached some conclusions. Gregory's face was carefully neutral, but his hands trembled slightly. Okay. First conclusion. What you did was unforgivable by any reasonable standard. The affair, the betrayal, the abandonment while I was pregnant and in labor, those things can't be undone. They'll always be part of our history. I know. Second conclusion. Forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation. I can forgive you, maybe, eventually, without ever trusting you again. Without ever rebuilding our marriage. Forgiveness is for me, not for you. I understand. Third conclusion. Her voice wavered. I don't want my daughters growing up thinking that betrayal means love dies forever. I don't want them learning that one mistake, even a huge one, means you're beyond redemption. Because that's not the world I want them to live in. Gregory's eyes filled with tears. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to try. Not because I trust you, I don't. Not because I've forgiven you, I haven't. But because I've watched you show up every single day for 2 months. I've watched you lose your business relationships defending me. I've watched you set boundaries with your mother that I know cost you. I've watched you be a father even when I made it as hard as possible. She pulled out another document. And because your therapist and mine both say that trauma can either destroy relationships or transform them. That couples who survive infidelity sometimes build stronger marriages than they had before, if both people are willing to do the work. Are you willing? Gregory asked carefully. To do the work? I'm willing to try. For 6 months. Full transparency. Couples therapy twice a week. Individual therapy for both of us. You keep living here, not in our home. You earn back access to family life gradually, not all at once. And if at any point I feel like you're slipping into old patterns, I walk away with no guilt. What about the post-nuptial agreement? It stays in place. All of it. You don't get your financial control back just because I'm willing to work on the marriage. Mona's voice was steel. I need to know I can survive without you. That I'm choosing you from strength, not need. Gregory nodded slowly. What changed? 2 months ago, you couldn't look at me. Now you're proposing reconciliation. Your mother showed up at my brownstone last week. The color drained from Gregory's face. She what? Unannounced. With gifts for the girls. Acting like nothing had happened. Like she could just buy her way back into our lives. Mona's jaw tightened. And I realized something watching her perform apologies she didn't mean. You're not her. You look like her. You learned her behaviors. But you're not actually the same person. What did you say to her? I told her to leave. I told her that her granddaughters would grow up knowing exactly what she did. That I would never lie to protect her reputation. That if she wanted a relationship with them, she needed to actually change, not just pretend to apologize. Mona smiled grimly. She threatened to sue for grandparent rights. She what? I told her to try. That I'd love to have a court hear about how she celebrated their mother's death. Mona's eyes flashed. She left very quickly after that. Gregory stood, pacing. I should have protected you from her. No, I protected myself. That's the point. Mona stood too, facing him. I don't need you to fight my battles. I need you to stand beside me while I fight them. There's a difference. I want to stand beside you. For everything. For the rest of our lives, if you'll let me. Then prove it. Not with grand gestures or expensive gifts. Prove it by being boring and consistent. By showing up even when it's not dramatic. By choosing us over your ego every single time. Gregory crossed to her, stopping just short of touching. Can I hug you? I know I don't have the right, but you can ask. That's new. Mona stepped into his embrace, feeling his arms wrap around her carefully, like she was something precious that might break. She'd forgotten how he felt, how he smelled, how her body remembered loving him even when her mind insisted on remembering the betrayal. I'm sorry, he whispered into her hair. I'm so fucking sorry, Mona. For all of it. For being a coward. For hurting you. For nearly losing you. I know you are. She pulled back slightly, looking up at him. But sorry isn't enough. It's a start, but it's not enough. What is enough? Time. Consistency. Proof that you're different not just because you got caught, but because you actually want to be a better man. She touched his face gently. I need to believe that even if I forgave you completely tomorrow, you'd still do the work. That you're not just performing until you get what you want. I'm not performing. This is who I want to be. Who I should have been all along. Then be that person. Every day. Even when I'm difficult. Even when the girls are screaming. Even when work is demanding and your mother is manipulating and life gets messy. Be that person when it's hard. I will. I swear to God I will. Mona stepped back, creating space between them again. There's one more thing we need to discuss. Victoria. Gregory's expression darkened. She's been sending letters. To my office, my apartment, even to the estate. My lawyers are handling it. She came to the brownstone yesterday. What? Gregory's voice was sharp with alarm. Mona, if she approached you. She didn't get past the front steps. I saw her through the window and called the police. She violated the restraining order. Mona pulled out her phone, showing him photos. She was screaming that I ruined her life. That you promised her everything. That the twins should have been her children. Gregory looked sick. I never promised her anything. The affair was ego and escapism, and I know what it was. I've read enough about affairs to understand. Mona put her phone away. But she doesn't know that. She built a fantasy where you were going to leave me for her. Where she was going to be Mrs. Gregory Blackstone. And reality destroyed that fantasy. She's delusional. She's heartbroken and angry and lashing out. Which makes her dangerous. Mona's voice was calm but firm. Your lawyers need to take this seriously. She's escalating. First the press, now showing up at my home. This doesn't end well unless someone intervenes. I'll call them today. Get an emergency protective order. Whatever it takes. Good. Mona gathered her folder. I need to get back to the girls. But Gregory, this is your last chance. Not because I'm generous, but because I'm choosing to believe people can change. Don't make me regret that choice. I won't. I promise you I won't. Mona paused at the door. One more thing. I'm rewriting my wedding vows. For myself. Not for you. Not yet. But for myself, so I remember what I'm worth. What I deserve. What I'll never accept less than again. Will you share them with me? When you're ready? Maybe. If you earn the right to hear them. She opened the door. Show up tomorrow at 7. Bring coffee, the good kind from the place on Newberry Street. And be ready to change a truly astronomical amount of diapers. Parenting isn't glamorous. I'll be there. I know you will. You've been there every day for 2 months. She smiled slightly, the first real smile she'd given him since the hospital. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm trying. Because you finally showed up. After she left, Gregory sat in his sparse apartment and cried. Not pretty tears. Ugly, body-shaking sobs of relief and terror and overwhelming gratitude that she was willing to try. He'd nearly lost everything. And now he had a chance, just a chance, to build something better than what he'd destroyed. He wouldn't waste it. Not this time. Not ever again. End of Act 4. Shall I continue with ACT 5? Resolution, 1,500 words. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. 1 year later. Mona stood in the nursery, the real nursery now, in the home they'd chosen together, not the Blackstone estate or her defensive brownstone, but something new. Watching Gregory read to Elena and Sophie. The twins were 14 months old now, toddling around, babbling in their own language, dark curls bouncing as they climbed over their father like he was playground equipment. And the princess said to the dragon. Gregory read with exaggerated drama. You don't scare me anymore. I've faced scarier things than you. Sophie clapped. Elena tried to eat the book. That's not how that story goes, Mona said from the doorway. Gregory looked up, grinning. I'm improvising. The original version was too passive. Our daughters need better role models than princesses waiting to be rescued. Our daughters need to go to bed. But Mona was smiling as she said it. She still had moments, many moments, where the past crashed over her like a wave. Where she remembered the hospital, the voices celebrating her death, the betrayal that had nearly destroyed her. Therapy helped. Time helped. But mostly, Gregory's consistency helped. He'd shown up. Every single day for a year. Through teething and sleep deprivation and Mona's panic attacks and trust issues and all the messy, unglamorous reality of rebuilding a marriage from ashes. He'd sold his majority stake in Blackstone Pharmaceuticals, stepping back from the company that had consumed his identity. I don't want to be the kind of father who's always choosing work, he'd said. I don't want our daughters growing up with a ghost for a dad. He'd maintained boundaries with Catherine. His mother had attempted reconciliation exactly once, appearing at a family therapy session Dr. Chun had recommended. It had been brutal. Catherine had tried her usual manipulations, her careful non-apologies, her attempts to rewrite history. Gregory had stopped her. Mom, either you tell the truth about what you said at the hospital, or you leave. But you don't get to gaslight my wife anymore. Catherine had left. They hadn't spoken in 11 months. Mona knew it cost him. Knew he grieved the mother he'd wanted versus the mother he had. But he chose his daughters over his mother's comfort. Chose truth over image. Chose the hard right over the easy wrong. Every single day. Bedtime, Mona announced, scooping up Elena. Gregory grabbed Sophie, and together they went through the ritual. Bath time, chaotic, pajamas, a wrestling match, bottles, peaceful finally, and goodnight songs, off-key but heartfelt. When both girls were finally asleep, Gregory and Mona collapsed on the couch in their living room. Really collapsed, the way exhausted parents do. I have something for you, Gregory said after a moment of blessed silence. If it's expensive, I'm returning it. We talked about this. It's not expensive. Well, not monetarily. He pulled out a leather-bound journal. I've been writing. In therapy, Dr. Morrison suggested I document my journey. So I did. All of it. The affair, the shame, the work I've done, the man I'm trying to become. I want you to read it. Mona took the journal carefully. Why? Because you deserve to know what's going on inside my head. Because secrets nearly destroyed us, and I'm done with secrets. Because, his voice cracked slightly. Because I want you to see that I'm doing this work even when you're not watching. That I'm not just performing for your benefit. She opened to a random page, reading his handwriting. Day 247. Sophie said Dada today. Just that. Dada. And I cried like an idiot because 10 months ago, I nearly missed this. Nearly missed everything because I was too much of a coward to face my own inadequacies. Mona was patient while I blubbered. She's been patient with so much. More than I deserve. Dr. Morrison asked today if I thought I'd earned her trust back yet. I said no. He asked when I thought I would. I said maybe never, and maybe that's okay. Maybe the point isn't earning forgiveness like it's a transaction. Maybe the point is being worthy of love whether or not I'm forgiven. Mona's vision blurred with tears. Gregory, keep reading. Any page. All of it. I want you to know me. Really know me. The good and the bad and the still working on it. She flipped to another entry. Day 312. Ran into Victoria today. She looked terrible. Apparently the press destroyed her career. She tried to apologize, said she'd been caught up in the fantasy. I told her I didn't forgive her, that wasn't mine to give. That she'd have to live with what she'd done, the same as I live with what I've done. She asked if Mona and I were back together. I said we were rebuilding. She said she took you back? Like Mona was weak for giving me another chance. I told her that Mona was the strongest person I'd ever met. That taking me back wasn't weakness, it was courage. That staying angry would have been easier. That forgiveness requires more strength than revenge. I don't think she understood, but I finally did. I do understand, Mona whispered. It would have been easier to hate you. So much easier. Why didn't you? Because hate would have poisoned me, not you. Because our daughters deserve to see that people can change. Because, she closed the journal, looking at him directly. Because somewhere under the entitled, selfish man I married, there was this man. The one who shows up. The one who does the work. The one who reads feminist revisions of fairy tales to his daughters. Gregory laughed, but his eyes were wet. I have something else. Well, a question, really. Okay. He slid off the couch, kneeling in front of her. Mona's breath caught. I'm not proposing. We're already married. But I want to renew our vows. Different vows. Real vows. Not the ones we said when I was performing and you were hopeful. Vows that acknowledge what we've been through. Vows that mean something. Gregory, I wrote mine already. Want to hear them? Mona nodded, not trusting her voice. Gregory pulled out a folded paper, his hands shaking slightly. Mona, I vow to show up. Not just physically, but emotionally. To be present even when it's uncomfortable. I vow to choose you. Every day, even when choosing you means choosing the harder path. I vow to raise our daughters to be strong, to take up space, to never dim themselves for anyone, including me. I vow to be honest, even when honesty is costly. I vow to respect your autonomy, your choices, your right to leave if I ever become the man I was. And I vow to spend the rest of my life proving that people can change, that betrayal doesn't have to be a death sentence, that redemption is possible if you're willing to do the work. He looked up at her, tears streaming freely now. I vow to love you not because I need you, but because I choose you. Every single day, for the rest of my life. Mona was crying too, messy and raw. I wrote vows too. I didn't know why. Didn't know if we'd ever have a moment to share them. But I wrote them anyway. She pulled out her own folded paper, her handwriting shaky but determined. Gregory, I vow to forgive you, not because you've earned it, but because forgiveness is how I heal. I vow to trust you again, slowly, in increments, building something stronger than what we lost. I vow to be honest about my pain, my fears, my boundaries, and to expect you to respect them. I vow to raise our daughters to understand that love requires accountability, that forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting, that strength means knowing your worth and never accepting less. Her voice broke, but she continued. I vow to remember who I am outside of being your wife, to maintain my own identity, my own dreams, my own power. I vow to stay because I choose to, not because I'm trapped by economics or fear or the sunk cost of our history. And I vow to believe in second chances, not because betrayal doesn't matter, but because people can grow, can change, can become better than they were. She met his eyes. I vow to love you again, differently than before, stronger, more aware, with my eyes open to your faults and my own. I vow to build a marriage that's honest rather than comfortable, real rather than perfect, hard-won rather than easy. When can we do this officially? Gregory asked. Renew our vows? In front of people who matter. Next month, on Elena and Sophie's birthday. Small ceremony. Just us, the girls, Dr. Chun, Miranda, our therapists. The people who helped us survive. Not my mother. Not unless she's ready to genuinely apologize. And I mean genuinely, taking full responsibility, acknowledging harm, committing to change. Not her usual performance. I'm okay with that. Gregory stood, pulling Mona up with him. I'm okay with whatever boundaries you need. This is your choice, your timeline, your terms. Mona stepped into his embrace, letting herself feel safe in his arms for the first time in over a year. Not because she'd forgotten what he'd done, but because she'd forgiven him. Because he'd earned back, degree by painful degree, the right to hold her. I love you, he whispered. I love you so much it terrifies me. Good. Stay terrified. Stay humble. Stay present. She pulled back to look at him. The moment you get comfortable, the moment you think you've got this figured out, that's when you need to worry. Noted. Stay humble. Stay present. Stay terrified. Got it. They kissed then, not passionate, not desperate, but tender. A kiss between two people who'd been through hell and chosen to walk back out together. Who'd taken the ashes of their old marriage and built something new. Something honest. Something worth fighting for. 6 months later, on a crisp autumn afternoon, Mona and Gregory stood in their backyard under an arch of flowers, Elena and Sophie in matching dresses, tottering around and delighting in being the center of attention. Dr. Chen officiated. It seemed appropriate that the woman who delivered their daughters also witness their rebirth as a couple. Marriage, Dr. Chen said, is not a fairy tale. It's not a contract. It's not a guarantee. Marriage is a choice you make every single day. To show up. To be honest. To love imperfectly, but persistently. Mona and Gregory's journey hasn't been easy. It's been messy and painful and full of hard truths. But they did the work. They chose healing over bitterness. They chose growth over blame. And now they're choosing each other again, not out of obligation or fear, but out of genuine love and respect. They exchanged rings, new ones, designed together, engraved with the date of the twins' birth, the day they died and been reborn. I'll love you better this time, Gregory promised, sliding the ring on Mona's finger. I'll let you, Mona replied, placing his ring with steady hands. When Dr. Chun pronounced them married, again, finally, for real, Sophie started crying, setting off Elena, and the ceremony dissolved into chaos as they comforted their daughters. It was perfect. Not magazine perfect. Not fairy tale perfect. Real life perfect. Messy and beautiful and honest. Miranda pulled Mona aside afterward. How do you feel? Terrified. Hopeful. Grateful. All of it at once. That's how you know it's real. If you felt certain, I'd worry you were lying to yourself. I'm not lying. I'm choosing. There's a difference. Yes. Yes, there is. Miranda hugged her. You're the bravest person I know. Not because you forgave him. Because you chose your own healing first. And forgiveness came from strength, not weakness. Later, after guests had left and the twins were asleep, Mona and Gregory sat on their porch, watching the sunset. Do you think we'll make it? Gregory asked quietly. Long term? Or will I mess this up again? I don't know. Nobody knows. Marriage doesn't come with guarantees. Mona took his hand. But I know you'll try. I know you've changed. I know the man you are now is different from the man you were. And I know that's enough. Is it really? Enough. For today, yes. Ask me again tomorrow. I'll probably say yes then too. That's how this works. One day at a time, one choice at a time, building something that's ours. Gregory pulled her close, and they sat in comfortable silence as evening fell. In the house behind them, their daughters slept peacefully. In front of them, the future stretched uncertain but no longer frightening. They'd survived the worst. They'd done the work. They'd chosen each other not out of need or obligation or fear of being alone, but out of genuine love rebuilt from ashes. Some marriages don't survive betrayal. Some shouldn't. But some, the ones where both people are willing to do the brutal, honest, daily work of change, some become stronger than they ever were before. Not perfect, not unmarked, but real, honest, hard-won, and worth every painful step of the journey. 3 years after that autumn ceremony, Catherine Blackstone appeared at their door. Not announced, not demanding, humble in a way Mona had never seen. I've been in therapy, she said simply, for 2 years, learning about narcissism and control and how I damaged my son. Her voice broke, how I celebrated the death of someone I should have protected, someone carrying my grandchildren. Mona stood in the doorway, Elena and Sophie peeking out from behind her legs, 4 years old now, curious about the elegant stranger. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Catherine continued. I'm just asking to apologize. Really apologize. To say the words I should have said 3 years ago. I'm sorry. I celebrated your apparent death. I wanted you gone so Gregory could be with someone I deemed suitable. I was cruel and narcissistic and wrong. And I don't deserve your forgiveness, but you deserve to hear the truth. Mona studied her former mother-in-law, saw genuine remorse, saw humility, saw change. Would you like to meet your granddaughters? She asked finally. Catherine's face crumpled with relief and gratitude. If you'll allow it. On your terms. Your boundaries. Come in. We'll have tea. And you'll tell them stories about their father as a boy. The real stories, not the sanitized versions. And maybe, over time, we'll build something. Maybe. Maybe is more than I deserve. Maybe, Mona agreed. But maybe is where all second chances start. And she opened the door wider, letting in the past that had been transformed by accountability, letting possibility bloom where there had only been pain. Because forgiveness, she'd learned, wasn't weakness. It was the strongest thing she'd ever done, and it had given her everything she'd almost lost. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.